Hi, Christopher. How are you? Before we start, I'm going to read for you the informal consent about we spoke before. You are invited to participate in Alto Research that is exploring the lessons that marketers learn about working in teams over the course of their careers. In this research, we are exploring the team effectiveness, the events or experiences that contribute to your learning about high-performing teams and to understand the marketer's approach to working in team. We are inviting you to participate in this research. The participation in this research means that you give your consent for the research team to use the answer you give. You don't have to participate in the research to participate in the interview. These data are being collected for research purpose only. All data will be stored confidentially and accessible only to the research team. Your data will be combined with the rest of the sample for the analysis, and overall statistics will be reported. Your name will not be used in any analysis or reporting. It is likely that Holt may publish research or other academic materials that makes use of data from this interview. However, the result will be aggregated and shared at the group level, and you as an individual participant will not be identifiable. Your participation in the research is voluntary, and you may withdraw your participation at any time without reason. Okay.
Sounds good. I accept the terms, and I'm happy to participate into the research then.
Okay, can you briefly introduce yourself before we start?
Yes, sure. So hello everyone. Gabriele, thank you for having me, and I mean it's a pleasure to speak to you. So I'm currently working at the Bank of England as within the Prudential Regulation Authority. Before that, I worked at an equity research firm covering financials in Europe. And before that, I graduated from UCL with a master's in management. My bachelor's and my first master's were in Italy, between Cagliari, where I studied economics and finance, and then innovation and technology management at the University of Sacred Heart in Milan. So yeah, again, now I'm at the Bank of England and working on prudential regulation from a macro point of view.
Okay. As I told you before, this interview is about teamwork and communication. And the first question I have for you is how important have teamwork and communication been to your success?
So I'm not sure I am successful at the moment, but I would say teamwork and cooperation, you said?
And communication.
Communication, yeah. I would say they've been very important for me overall. I can mention my time at Cattolica, where I basically worked in teams for a lot of my exams, and I found it very useful to share my point of view with other people and get their input, because that was a way to bring on the best ideas and to compare them so that the worst ones got weeded out and the best ones were put forward, and everyone had a chance to give their contribution, and in the end the output was superior to the one it would have been if only one person made a decision on themselves. And that continued at UCL, and it was even better because there were a lot of people from across the globe there, which I guess is also the case for you, Halt. And it was very interesting to interact with people from across the globe with different backgrounds, both cultural as well as educational, and that has been very helpful. And now at the bank, for example, you learn a lot from different styles that people have in their work, especially as you're young. I think it's very important to take the best of what people have to offer, So it's both you achieve a higher result when you work in a team. I mean, a better result, but at the same time, you also have the opportunity to learn from the other teammates, especially if you're very young, and that's another plus. So I would say there's a double plus.
Okay. Do you think that it's difficult if you work in a team deal with a cultural gap?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult. It's been a case when I was working at UCL with people from that had a very different background and cultural background respect to mine, and it was difficult because I think the lesson there was you need to understand how different people are used to speaking their thoughts in their mind. So and maybe some people are more straightforward and a bit more quote unquote dominant in the conversation, and other people may have great ideas but they're just a bit shyer and they won't bring on their point. So I think the main lesson was make sure everyone has a chance to speak, because yeah, so yeah, there's barriers, but if you can overcome these barriers, if you're attent to the needs and the culture of these people, just acknowledging the fact that they won't speak, maybe if they're not, let's say, called for, that's already a thing. So maybe if you're in a group of five, you say, okay, Christopher speaks, then the next person, then the next person, everyone speaks for 2 minutes without anyone interrupting the other person, and you force everyone to speak. So everyone gives their input. I think, especially at the beginning, when you're brainstorming and you're putting ideas together, it's very important to have the input of everyone. Then maybe if you go a bit forward, maybe then, some people contribute more and others contribute less. But overall, especially at the beginning, it's very important to overcome these cultural barriers so that everyone brings in their insight.
Thinking about other skills that are important in a team, what do you think are other skills that are important to, like, for example, problem solving, critical thinking, leadership, conflict resolution?
I think a team needs to work very well in terms of prioritizing. It has to set the goal. So kind of that means being precise and prioritizing what's most important. Then the team has to be good at problem solving, and then basically also designing the way in which you're going to solve the problem, going towards then the implementation of the design that you have created to solve the problem. So to do so, I think it's very important to have a team where you have diverse skills. So maybe you'll have someone that's very good at, I don't know, with numbers, someone that's very good with aesthetics, making a presentation, someone that's very good at speaking, another person that maybe very creative and brings another angle to your analysis. So I think it's good to have people that are complementary in their skills, because that really kind of creates that supreme machine that finds a problem, designs a solution, and then designs an effective solution to this problem, and then implements and achieves the goal. So complementary skills, communication, prioritization, these are very important. And then very important, a good leader, I think, is obviously essential. And a good leader for me will be a person that doesn't really need to impose anything on anyone, but it's more really leading by example, in a sense that it has to be someone that's I feel gives the opportunity for everyone to speak, and make sure that everyone is put in a position where their work is the easiest. Like, if I'm good at numbers, it makes no sense to put me at, I don't know, writing a paper. Well,
Yeah.
obviously, so a good leader will also be able to allocate people, or at least not like strictly allocated, but then just push them towards the roles where they have the most, let's say, appropriate skills, And that's all going to feed in basically to the ultimate goal.
You were very, very clear. What do you wish you knew earlier in your career about teamwork and communication? There's some mistake that you did about you learned.
Okay, what do you wish what do I wish I knew better? Okay. So let me think. I think I think having a good structure and being kind of systematic in how you approach a problem is very useful. And if you're not and you're all over the place, then things just get slowed down and it's very difficult to get them done properly. I think yeah, it's very important to have structure. And then yeah, I think that would be one thing I would highlight, which I think I still have to improve on, and which is very helpful.
Do you think trust is important in working in a team? And if yes, obviously, how
I
important
think
is?
it's super important. Um, if a team will also be, you know, you as a junior working for your manager, or working for someone that's under, let's say, you work in a team and there's an analyst above you and then there's a manager. So trust is extremely important because if there's no trust, the people above you and you with the people below you will be micromanaging them. And micromanagement is really, I feel really bad because and it's really down to a lack of trust because you micromanage because you want to make sure everything is exactly how you want it. And that's because you don't really trust that person to do what you've tasked them with. And that's very detrimental to the whole process because then you end up doing all the things you have assigned to other people. And the person that you're micromanaging at the same time doesn't feel trust, doesn't feel involved in the task, doesn't feel appreciated anyway, doesn't feel responsible. And responsibility is very important for people to be both accountable. So then you can say, oh, you've done good or bad. But you can't really hold anyone accountable if you haven't trusted them, I mean, given them something to do and trusted them with doing it without you intervening continuously. So trust is super important. And I found that in my working experience that I had trust from the people above me, because obviously I wasn't managing anyone. And it was super helpful because you get to do more stuff. Uh, you become responsible for your work. You take accountability for it, good and bad. And you just being responsible, you kind of you take responsibility. So you want to do a good job because you
Yeah.
know it's in your hands. So you have the strongest incentive to do your best. And you also learn the most.
And if it gets lost, if trust gets lost, how do you recover it?
Well, I mean,
And how do you build it? Before, how do you build? And if it gets lost, how do you recover it?
so like I think how you build it is at least how I've seen people gain trust in me was you start small and you just go onwards with bigger and bigger tasks. So you have, let's say you have, I mean, I was assigned smaller tasks at the beginning, obviously. I made sure I done them well. I did them well. And slowly I started getting more and more tasks and more responsibility, and also more, let's say, scope in how I address those tasks and those responsibility. So it's a very gradual process. It doesn't have to be too slow because otherwise you could, I mean, then the person that's receiving these tasks gets bored, I think. So it has to be quite not too fast, but I mean at a decent pace. and just bit by bit, then you build the trust. And it's very important that the people that are managing you, when you make mistakes are just part of learning, and mistakes are very important to learn. Without mistakes, there's no learning. So it's very important that you listen, that the people that are managing you point out to the mistakes in a way that's constructive. So then you have to learn from those mistakes and make sure you don't make them again. And so that I feel like is a very constructive cycle that builds trust and improves the capacity of the people that are working in a team. If trust is lost, well, I think there's many reasons why trust can be lost. It's difficult to say, to be honest, because you would not. I would have to know based on what would trust be lost based on what? I mean, what kind of what kind of example would you to define this?
Nothing particular. If you lost, if in your work experience, if you lost trust, how can you build it again? If you lost trust, maybe because you are managing a person, you gave him a task, and he didn't do the task. He's not accountable. So there's a lack of trust on him again to give him again a task to do it.
You're saying, so I gave a task to someone, he hasn't done it properly.
Yeah.
And then, so I wouldn't say that that's a reason to lose trust in someone, though. I feel like, I mean, I wouldn't do that. Would just mean he made a mistake, and you can't really
or he lied to you. He lied to you.
Oh, see, that's different. Well, that's different. That's different. If someone makes a mistake and they're honest about it, then it's one thing. If someone lies, then I think the problem is more serious. To be quite frank, I think you need to be able to trust the people you work with, and they have to be honest with you. And this goes both ways. So sometimes, I mean, this may seem a bit cynical, but if someone lies to you and they're working, and it's a serious thing, obviously, because it's something on a serious matter, then I mean, maybe it's not the case to continue working with them.
Okay.
I mean, but maybe if it's a smaller thing, obviously, you want to understand why that person lied, and what, I mean, you have to assess the situation based on its consequences and on the magnitude of these consequences. If these consequences are smaller, and I mean, there's some kind of justification, then you can take a different approach. But overall, I do not appreciate people who lie and are not honest.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. And the last question is about if you can give me a suggestion for an habit that I had to develop for my teamwork and communication as a graduate student in finance.
I think this is a good question. I'll give you one. But it's not mine. I actually read it. It's like the 2-minute rule. So like by Ray Dalio. So apparently he has the people in his team, the people who you're having a conversation with, and who you're working with on something, right? So you give everyone 2 minutes to speak, and you do not interrupt that person while they're speaking, and you just listen to that person. And you go around the team and you have everyone speak for 2 minutes, speaking their thoughts, and no one has to interrupt them. Questions later, have them speak and listen to them.
Yeah, I think it's something important. Listen to people, learn from people. Thank you for your answer, and we can consider the interview ended. And thank you for your time. And I hope we get in touch for next assignment or project or work opportunities.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gabriele, and we'll keep in touch, obviously.